Good morning, my lovelies. This is pre-recorded. My name is Red Moon Eagle, and this is Daily Devotional, and this is a special winter solstice episode for 2023. I am not certain if I'm going to post a live today or not, but I want to make sure I do winter solstice, some special things for winter solstice for you. So winter solstice card for the animal totem I pulled was the swan. Effortlessly creativity, sensitive mystic, elegant power. The swan represents Titan creativity. In the Hindu mythology, the goddess Saraswati, the embodiment of language, creativity, and artistry, rides on the back of this graceful creature. The swan is ready to take us there, to the fluid realm of writing, creativity, and reflection. This potent and healing energy is not to be taken for granted or taken lightly. The swan card appears. When the swan card appears, your soul is calling for attention, for solo time. An inner voice is waiting to be heard, an inner vision likely to be revealed. When in balance, infinite creative power. When out of balance, agitated, snippy, and lacking vision. To bring into balance, solo time, writing. So one of the things about the solstice is that it is moving us from the tide of preparation, which was fall equinox, to winter solstice, to the tide of destruction, which is winter solstice to spring equinox. And this is one of the turning of the tides. And there's a lot to it. I'm not going to go into all of that today, but I did want to read a few things from just a little bit of knowledge and some beauty and some poetry. So one of my favorite books is called the Celtic Devotional, and there is a greeting to the winter solstice here. Brightener of darkness, hail, keeper of clearness, opener of the depths. Depths of plenty are arising. Winter wonders, white snows fall. Joyful be the heart within us. Open the wide and guesting door. Wisdom awaken in abundance, warm our beings to the core. I cleanse my soul in the well of wisdom, protection of being, strength of mind, healing of heart. Be the triple cleansing of wisdom. May the blessing drop be upon all beings, conferring wisdom from swift twilight till dawn's chill light. The blessings of the eagle-winged renewer, and the blessing of the raven-winged transformer, attend my soul this winter. May all the burdens my being be lifted as I mount on the wings of dreams. Isn't that beautiful? So another book that I picked up a couple years ago is called A Year of Pagan Prayer. So it says it's a source book of poems, hymns, and invocations for thousands of years of pagan history by Barbara Nolan. I haven't really used this book a whole lot, but I did find a beautiful poem written to Frigga by Laurel Mendez. Frigga, fair goddess who knows and says not, watch, ward, and endow the humblest of hearths. In this season of cold, fierce and biting, faint warmth is found to bring cheer to any. No splendor is there to grace pale gray walls, no spruce twigs nor holly wait to be hung. Fear waits in corners and under floors, bare are the larders and vacant the cellars. Hunger and cold, the ancient companions, stand on the steps and knock at the doors. Hope now fares far away from such dwellings. Forgotten is mercy, justice, and peace. Thoughtless, unseeing, their betters pass by, smug in the wealth won at others' expense. Frigga, fair goddess, who knows and says not, teach humankind to remember our kin. With all of the wars going on, I thought that one was quite apt. The other thing I wanted to read about is a little bit of history. So Mithras is often attributed to why we celebrate Christmas in the wintertime. Some people say it's Saturnalia, some people say it's Mithras. There's a lot of legends and histories, but we know from the stories of what Christians say Christmas is about, that would have had to do with springtime in lambing season. So when traditions started to change over the world and Christianity became the dominant religion and power of the world, they took over many of the ancient times and adopted them for their own stories and their own connections to the people. However, and I'm going to read from here, Mithras is a very ancient god dating to a long time ago, before the glory of Greece and the grandeur of Rome, to a time when peoples who make up many of the modern nations of the East and West still lived all together. And I know that not everybody lived in harmony, and I know that's what she's insinuating, but anyway. So if we have lost Mithras here in the West, we can find him again in India in the pages of the Rig Veda, a collection of Sanskrit rhymes likely composed between 1500 and 1200 BCE. And we can also find him in Zoroastrianism and the ancient Persian faith still practiced by adherents in modern Iran and the worldwide Zoroastrian diaspora. Of course, neither Mithra or the Zoroastrians or the Mithra of the Hindus is identical to the Mithras of the West. But until we can recover our own, his near cousins can serve light on our path towards him. And unfortunately, Mithras has hired the imagination of some later Western poets whose also their works are included. So, Hymn to Mithra from the Vestas was translated by James Darmestater. The Persian Mithras is a god of light and oaths, one who sees to it that justice is done. In this very small excerpt of the Hymn to Mithra in the Vestas, a sacred text of Zoroastrianism, Mithra himself is depicted as praying to Ahura Mazda, the creator god. Then Mithra receives the prayers of his followers, imploring his protection. The nature of traditional sacrifice and libations are not clear, but the Zoroastrians were a strongly vegetarian faith. So we pray, may we keep our fields, may we never be exiles from our fields, exiles from our house, exiles from our borough, exiles from our town, exiles from our country. Thou dashest in pieces the malice of the malicious and the malice of the men of malice. Dast thou in pieces the killers of the faithful men. Thou hast good horses, thou hast good chariot. Thou bringeth help at every appeal, the art powerful. I pray unto thee for help with many consecrations and good consecrations of libations, with many offerings and good offerings of libations, that we, abiding in thee, may long inhabit a good abode, full of all riches that can be wished for. Thou keepest those nations that tender good worship to Mithra, the Lord of wide pastures. Thou dashest in pieces those that delight in havoc. Unto thee I pray for help, may he come to us for help. The awful, most powerful Mithra, the worshipful and praiseworthy, the glorious Lord of nations. For his brightest glory I will offer him sacrifice, worthy to be heard. And this is another from the Rig Veda. It's translated by Ralph T.H. Griffin. The Rig Veda is an ancient religious text of Hinduism, and the Adyatas are 7 high deities. Mithra is one. Mithra, when speaking, stirreth men to labor. Mithra sustaineth both the earth and heaven. Mithra beholdeth men with eyes that close not. To Mithra bring with holy oil oblation. Foremost be he who brings the food, O Mithra, who strives to keep the sacred law. He whom helpest ne'er be slain or conquered, on him from near or far falls no affliction. Joy in the sacred food, free from sickness, with knees bent lowly on earth's broad surface. Following closely the Adyata's statue, may we remain in Mithra's gracious favor. Auspicious and adorable, this Mithra is born with fair domain, king, disposer. May we enjoy the grace of him, the holy yea, rest in his propitious loving kindness. The great Adye be served with worship, who stirreth men, is gracious to the singer. To Mithra, him whose most highly be lauded, offer in fire oblation that he loveth. The graceful grace of Mithra, God, supporter of the race of man, gives splendor to the most glorious fame. Mithra, whose glory spreads afar, he who might surpass heaven, surpasses earth in his renown. Mithra to gods, to living men, to whom who strew the holy grass, God gives food, fulfilling sacred law. I think it's really interesting in so many traditions around the world that the solstice is celebrated as the turning. And it is the turning of giving honor to our connection to Earth and the planets around us, and honoring the connection we have to each other, being grateful for the roof over our heads and the food in our mouths, giving pause and sacred honor to how we move within the world and how we honor our connection to the world. I know that during the holiday season, there are so many people that are going hungry in the world. There are so many wars right now, so many people being afflicted in the name of religion. And I have argued for many years now that our connection to each other and our connection to spirituality and our connection to who we are as entities is more important than a religion that tells you how to honor a higher deity. And I think that may be fundamentally why, when we look at our ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, they honored many manifestations of how gods were personified. They were personified in a very human way, because all of the different things that make us who we are came from somewhere. And our connection to our gods or higher deities are often reflections of our own fears and our own struggles and obstacles. And when one god religions came about, if you look at some of the older writings, they all talk about being of grace, compassion, love of self, love of others, honoring the people around you, and our connection to each other. And the idea of one deity recognizes that I am me and I am you, and we are all connected and none of us are separate. Unfortunately, that was taken on in a religious context, and there was a great deal of power and control by people who wanted to have power and control over others, and they used it to get there. I don't think that every religion started necessarily as a bad thing, but they have turned into culture wars and genocide and me over you and race wars, and this idea that white is better than black, or men are better than women, and it has become this tainted, poisoned well that we keep dipping into, and wondering why we have generational trauma, and wondering why we have continued people that are destitute and starving in one of the richest countries in the world, and why, with the amount of things and the amount of production that we have in the world, we can't feed everybody. And we should be able to. We make enough things in the world that everyone should be without hunger, everyone should be with clean water, and everyone should have the rights to an education. And we still haven't gotten there. And why is that? Because we as individuals have given up our individual rights by dipping into the well of this poison. We have given up our power of mind. We have given up our power of our soul and our connection to each other. So on this solstice, I challenge you to rise above and connect. Don't dip into the poison well. Rise and connect. Reach your hand out to a fellow human being. Share libations. Share beverages. Share food. Share energy of the light. And in this darkest time, connect and grab hold of the power that you have and the responsibility that you have as an individual and in connection with others. Your individuality does nothing if you can't reach your hand out to share with another human being and another spiritual entity that is also struggling in this darkness. We need each other, people. We need each other. We need our animal companions, and we need each other as humans. We need each other as spiritual entities living this existence, this matrix, if you want to call it that. We need each other, and it's important. Let's turn the tide. Let's go through this tide. So the tide of preparation that leads to the tide of destruction. The tide of destruction leads to the tide of renewal. And the tide of renewal leads to the tide of completion. And all of those tides of a year, they all have meaning and they have depth of purpose. The tide of preparation connects us to the time of darkness. And that darkness is metaphorical. It doesn't have to be literal. And that metaphorical energy means reach out. You do not have to be tearing down the things that make us strong. Stop dipping into the well of the poison. Step out of the fear. Hold your power and connect with each other. We all have the responsibility to do that. It's one of the reasons that I do daily devotions. I'm constantly sending that energy out every day. Connect. Don't have to do it alone. We're here for each other. It matters. You are important. You are special. You bring something unique to the world. Share that. Trust it. There's always going to be somebody who dips into the well of fear. There's always somebody who wants to stay in that karmic trap. You don't have to. I wish you a blessed solstice. I wish you a beautiful, light-filled day, and I wish you the blessings of libations and the creative energy of Mithra, the blessing of Frigga. May you have home, may you have hearth, may you have connection, may you be well. Blessed be, and I will see you in prayer.